Congratulations to my beautiful children.
Thank you, Mom.
We love you.
May these rings serve as a reminder of the promises you make to one another today.
Hello, dear viewers. Thank you so much for coming back to our channel. In today's video, we invite you to witness the deeply emotional wedding of Huyen and Dae, held right on their own farm, the place where they stood side by side through the hardest days of their lives. Without luxury or extravagance, the ceremony unfolds in a simple, heartfelt setting, surrounded by family members from both sides and the people who matter most. From the touching moment when Dae places the wedding ring on Huyen's trembling hand, to Huyen's tearful smile as she accepts a happiness she has waited so long for, every second is filled with genuine emotion. And most moving of all is the moment when Mrs. Sam warmly welcomes Huyen as her daughter-in-law, offering not just a title, but the love, protection, and belonging of a true family, bringing many to tears. If you enjoy real-life stories that are simple yet deeply touching, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next episodes about Huyen and Dae's love, family life, and healing journey. Your support means everything to us and inspires us to continue sharing stories filled with love and hope. The wedding of Huyen and Dae took place on the very farm they had built together with their own hands, a place shaped by years of hard work, quiet perseverance, and shared dreams. At dawn, the farm slowly awakened under a soft golden light. Dew still clung to the grass, and a gentle breeze moved through rows of trees, carrying the scent of earth and wildflowers. This was not a grand venue chosen from a catalog, but a living witness to their journey, a place that had seen their exhaustion, their laughter, their arguments, and their unspoken promises. Today, it became the heart of a celebration filled with love. Simple white fabric was tied delicately between wooden posts, forming an aisle that led to a small altar made of natural wood and fresh greenery. There were no crystal chandeliers or elaborate decorations, only hand-picked flowers, jars of sunlight catching the morning glow, and chairs arranged closely so no one felt distant or alone. Everything about the setting reflected Huyen and Dae themselves, humble, sincere, and deeply rooted in real life. The farm did not try to impress. It simply embraced everyone who stepped onto it. Relatives from both families arrived early, their footsteps echoing softly on the earth. Elderly parents sat side by side, exchanging quiet smiles, while younger relatives ran around laughing, their joy filling the open air. There was no formal silence, no stiff etiquette. Instead, there were warm greetings, shared memories, and gentle teasing that carried the intimacy of a family gathering rather than a ceremony. Under the wide sky, two families slowly became one. As the ceremony began, the sounds of the farm continued naturally around them. Birds sang from nearby trees, and somewhere in the distance, livestock stirred, unaware that this ordinary land was witnessing an extraordinary moment. The breeze lifted Huyen's veil slightly, and sunlight traced soft patterns across her dress. She looked calm yet emotional, standing there with quiet grace, as if the farm itself was offering its blessing. Dae stood waiting, his posture steady, his gaze fixed on her with a mixture of awe and devotion. He was not nervous in the way of uncertainty, but in the way of someone who fully understood the weight of the promise he was about to make. Guests watched in silence as the couple faced one another. No one felt like a spectator. Everyone present had walked a part of this journey with them, through struggles, sacrifices, and moments when giving up might have seemed easier. That shared history made the atmosphere heavy with meaning. This was not just the union of two people, but the culmination of years of endurance and faith. The farm, with its uneven ground and weathered fences, seemed to stand proudly that day. It had once been the symbol of their struggle, a place where they had faced hardship together. Now it became a symbol of stability and hope. The simplicity of the setting stripped away all distractions, leaving only what truly mattered: two people choosing each other, witnessed by the families who had shaped them. As sunlight grew warmer and the ceremony continued, a quiet sense of gratitude settled over the gathering. Gratitude for survival, for love that endured hardship, and for a future built not on luxury, but on trust and companionship. In that moment, surrounded by nature and family, Huyen and De's wedding felt timeless. It was not defined by decorations or wealth, but sincerity, a reminder that the most beautiful celebrations are often born from the most ordinary places. As the ceremony moved toward its most meaningful moment, the air around Huyen and De seemed to grow still, as if even time itself had slowed down to witness what was about to happen. The gentle murmurs of the guests faded into silence, replaced by a quiet anticipation that settled deep in every heart present. De stood facing Huyen, his hands clasped together for a brief second, taking a breath he did not realize he had been holding. This was the moment he had imagined countless times, yet now that it had arrived, it felt far more powerful than any dream. When the wedding rings were brought forward, De reached out and took Huyen's ring into his palm. It was simple, unadorned, and modest, much like their life together, but to him it carried the weight of every promise he had ever made, spoken or unspoken. His fingers trembled slightly, not from doubt, but from the overwhelming realization that this small circle of metal symbolized a lifelong commitment. He lifted his eyes to meet Huyen's, and in that instant, the world around them seemed to disappear. Huyen stood quietly, her hands extended toward him, her expression a delicate balance of composure and emotion. Her eyes shimmered, reflecting not only the sunlight, but also the memories of every hardship they had endured together. She remembered the nights filled with uncertainty, the days of exhaustion, and the moments when love was the only thing that kept them moving forward. Now, standing here, she felt all of it converge into a single, breathtaking moment. With slow, deliberate care, De took Huyen's hand. His touch was warm and steady, grounding her as he gently slid the ring onto her finger. The movement was unhurried, almost reverent, as though he wanted to honor every second of the promise he was sealing. When the ring finally rested in place, it felt less like an object and more like a vow made tangible. A soft gasp escaped Huyen's lips, and tears welled in her eyes despite her efforts to hold them back. She looked down at the ring, then back at De, her vision blurred by emotion. Her lips curved into a trembling smile, one filled with gratitude, relief, and profound happiness. In that moment, she was no longer just accepting a ring, she was accepting a shared future, with all its uncertainties and hopes. Her tears were not born of sadness, but of the deep, overwhelming joy of being chosen, cherished, and loved without conditions. Dee's voice, when he spoke, was quiet but firm. Every word carried sincerity, echoing across the open space of the farm. He promised not perfection, but presence, not wealth, but effort, Not a life without storms, but a hand that would never let go during them. As he spoke, many among the guests felt their own eyes sting with tears, moved by the honesty of a vow that felt deeply human and achingly real. When it was Huyen's turn to respond, she nodded gently, unable to speak at first. Her fingers tightened around Dee's hand, as if drawing strength from him. When she finally found her voice, it trembled, but it was filled with conviction. She promised to walk beside him, to grow with him, and to choose him every day, even when life became difficult. Her words were simple, but they resonated deeply, carrying the kind of truth that could only come from lived experience. As they exchanged their vows, the farm bore witness once again. The breeze rustled softly through the trees, and sunlight danced across their joined hands. Applause eventually broke the silence, gentle at first, then growing louder, not out of formality, but genuine emotion. Everyone present understood they had just witnessed something rare, love forged through resilience and sealed with devotion. In that sacred moment, the rings became more than symbols. They became quiet reminders that love does not need extravagance to be powerful. All it needs is truth, courage, and two people willing to hold on to each other, no matter what lies ahead. As the applause slowly faded and the vows were sealed, the ceremony reached a moment that carried a different kind of weight, quiet, intimate, and deeply rooted in family. From the front row, Mrs. Sam rose from her seat. Her movements were slow, not because of hesitation, but because she seemed to want to savor every step. The years had left their marks on her face and hands, yet her eyes shone brightly, filled with a joy that words could hardly contain. This was the moment she had waited for longer than anyone else. She walked toward Huyen and Day with a gentle smile, her hands slightly trembling. Around them, the guests instinctively fell silent once more, sensing the importance of what was about to unfold. This was not a formal ritual written into the ceremony, but something far more meaningful, a mother's acceptance, freely given and deeply felt. Mrs. Sam reached out and took Huyen's hands into her own. Her grip was warm and firm, as if she were afraid that letting go too soon would break the reality of the moment. Huyen lowered her head respectfully, her heart racing as emotions surged through her chest. In that brief silence, generations of longing, hope, and resilience seemed to converge. With a voice softened by age and love, Mrs. Sam spoke. She did not use elaborate words or rehearsed lines. Instead, she spoke from the heart. She welcomed Huyen not only as a daughter-in-law, but as a daughter of the family. From that day forward, she said, Huyen would no longer walk alone. This home, this farm, and this family would always be hers. Tears rolled freely down Huyen's cheeks as she listened. She had entered the marriage with love for Day, but also with quiet fears of being an outsider, of not being enough, of failing in her role as a wife and daughter-in-law. In Mrs. Sam's simple, heartfelt words, those fears gently dissolved. She felt seen, accepted, and embraced in a way she had never experienced before. Mrs. Sam pulled Huyen into a tender embrace, resting her hand lightly on her back. It was not a dramatic gesture, but it carried the warmth of a lifetime, the kind of embrace that said without words, "You are safe here." Huyen leaned into it, her shoulders trembling as she finally allowed herself to cry openly. Around them, many guests quietly wiped away their own tears, moved by the authenticity of the moment. Day stood beside them, his chest tight with emotion. Watching his mother welcome the woman he loved filled him with a profound sense of peace. He had always hoped that the two most important women in his life would understand and support each other. Seeing that hope realized before his eyes felt like a blessing beyond measure. Mrs. Sam then turned to her son, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. Her gaze held both pride and tenderness. She reminded him of his responsibility, not only as a husband, but as a man who must protect, respect, and cherish his wife. Day nodded quietly, his eyes glistening as he promised to live up to that trust. The moment rippled outward, touching every corner of the gathering. What began as a wedding ceremony now felt like something deeper, a reaffirmation of family, continuity, and love passed from one generation to the next. The farm, once again, stood as a silent witness to a new chapter being written within its familiar boundaries. As the ceremony drew to a close, laughter and gentle conversation slowly returned. Children ran across the grass, elders exchanged knowing smiles, and the air filled with a sense of calm fulfillment. There was no grand finale, no extravagant display, only the quiet certainty that something meaningful had taken place. In welcoming Huyen into the family, Mrs. Sam had given more than approval. She had offered belonging, and in that simple act, she completed the circle of the wedding day, transforming it from a celebration of love between two people into the beginning of a shared life within a family. Under the open sky of the farm, surrounded by those who mattered most, Huyen and Day stepped forward together, no longer just husband and wife, but part of a legacy built on love, acceptance, and home.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Live Single RV. Vậy là câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay kết thúc tại đây. Nội dung câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày nay đã rất là hấp dẫn, đã kể về câu chuyện là Đệ đã thấy căn nhà của Huyền đã xuống cấp rất là nặng nề. Vì thế Đệ đã bí mật thiết kế một căn nhà bằng những viên gạch để tạo bất ngờ cho Huyền, và Đệ cũng đã gây sự bất ngờ cho Huyền khi đề nghị với Huyền là anh muốn xây dựng cho Huyền một căn nhà mới bằng những viên gạch lung đỏ rất là đẹp. Huyền thì cảm thấy rất là vui mừng và hạnh phúc, bởi vì căn nhà cô và Đệ và bé May A đang ở hiện cũng đã xuống cấp rất là nặng nề, không còn an toàn để cho cả gia đình sinh sống nữa. Nên khi mà Đệ đề nghị như thế thì Huyền đã lập tức đồng ý với Đệ, và cả hai đã tiến hành công việc bắt tay vào xây dựng căn nhà ngay lập tức. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn về câu chuyện cũng giống như quá trình xây nhà của Huyền và Đệ sẽ còn được kể ở các video tiếp theo. Các bạn đừng quên bấm vào nút subscribe để đăng ký kênh, sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các câu chuyện sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Live Single RV nhé. Nếu các bạn thấy câu chuyện hôm nay hay, hấp dẫn và mới lạ, hãy cho mình xin nút like, share và để lại bình luận ở dưới video nhé. Mọi ý kiến đóng góp của các bạn sẽ giúp mình cải thiện nội dung trên kênh hay hơn nữa để phục vụ các khán giả. Huyền và Đệ cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều vì đã luôn theo dõi và ủng hộ hành trình của họ. Huyền and Đệ say thank you to you. Bye bye, see you soon.